Purchasing a property in France? There are different taxes to which you may be subject to. Depending on your situation and the location of this property, different obligations may arise. Here is a guide through the main taxes you will subject to when you acquire your French property. When buying your property, you will be required to pay for registration fees, or what is called in French frais de notaire. These fees and taxes will depend on the type of property you purchase. In case you purchase an old building, the total transfer of ownership costs and taxes payable to the purchase of this property will be between 7 and 10% of the purchase price, excluding real estate agency fees. In case you purchase a brand new property, VFA, or a property less than 5 years old sold by a professional, you will pay about 2% of transfer and registration fees, plus a VAT at the rate of 20% of the purchase price, excluding real estate agency fees. These fees and taxes are paid at the time of acquisition to the notary in charge of the sale. Even if you are a non-resident taxpayer, as long as you receive income in France, rents for example, you must declare this income and file a tax return in France. There is no reporting threshold. All income must be reported even if it is not taxable. To determine your tax liability, the French tax authorities will first determine your total gross income, to which some adjustments will be made to obtain your net taxable income. Your tax liability will then be calculated depending on the composition of your tax household and the level of your income. For more information about this, check the link in the description. Non-residents are subject to a minimum tax rate of 20 or 30% on their net taxable income in France. You will be required to file this tax return in April, and the tax notice will be received at the end of the summer. There are two different local taxes in France: the housing tax, taxe d'habitation, and the property tax, taxe foncière. The housing tax, also known as taxe d'habitation, is an annual tax which is paid by the occupant of the property on January 1st of the tax year. In case the property is your second home and you do not physically occupy it on January 1st, you will still be liable for this tax. If you rent out a property annually, the person liable for the payment of the housing tax is the tenant living in the property. The tax rate is determined by each city and can vary considerably. It is calculated based on the rental value of the property. This tax, therefore, depends on the decision of each municipality and the size of the property. In case the property is inhabitable, the housing tax may not be due. In some cities, the tax on vacant housing, also called taxe sur les logements vacants, will be due on a property that has been empty for at least 1 year. If you own a television set, you will be liable for the audiovisual fee, which amounted to €139 in 2019. This tax is included in the housing tax notice. The housing tax notice will be sent in the third quarter of the year to the address mentioned in your title deed, unless otherwise indicated by you. This is an annual tax paid by the owner of the property, whether he lives in the property or not. You should request a copy of this notice from your seller, real estate agent, or notary to better understand your future obligations. New constructions or major improvements must be reported to the tax authorities in order to reassess the property tax. The tax notice will be received in the third quarter of the year. The household waste collection tax is collected to finance the collection and treatment of domestic waste by the municipality service. It is included in the property tax notice. If you rent the property, you have the right to recover this tax from the tenant. This tax is due if your net taxable real estate assets exceeds 1.3 million euros on January 1st. If you do not live in France, only your properties located in France are taken into account, subject to the provision of any tax treaty between your country of residence and France. Assets valuation and household determination are made on January 1st of each year. Taxable assets under the French wealth tax are all properties and investments in real estate. They include the main residence, as well as second homes, lands and rental buildings, shares held in real estate partnerships, SCEs, shares held in real estate funds such as SCPEs, shares held in companies up to the value of their assets in which you hold at least 10% of the share capital. Deductible debts, provided they exist on January 1st of the tax year. The tax rate varies between 0.5 and 1.5% of the declared value of the properties. It is up to you to decide whether or not you should declare your assets to the IFI. However, if the tax authorities decide that you are subject to wealth tax, they have the right to collect the unpaid taxes with penalties over the previous 10 years. Wealth tax returns are sent in May every year. Get in touch with our team of professionals to assist you in the tax management of your properties and stay up to date with your tax requirements in France.